Okay, we've saved the best for last. Thank you. Um, we actually had so many speakers in the operator training simulator session that originally we had one session, but we couldn't give them an adequate chance to speak in a single session with 5 speakers. So I'm going to give my same introduction briefly in case you didn't miss it. You'll get a second version of that. And we have some two great speakers from Axon and also from Reliance Refining going to show us how they've managed their simulation at their facilities. So obviously, if you choose not to train your operators, you could have some very bad consequences, right? Obviously, looking at the result of accidents, the accident investigations, and the lawyers and lawsuits associated with accidents, they routinely point to lack of operator training as one of the root causes of those accidents, and those legal penalties sometimes are related to the lack of operator training. We mentioned fidelity. I think there was always a statement about models that all models are wrong. Some are useful, but many are very, very useful, actually. And because no models are perfect, there's always a question of just what is the adequate level of fidelity, and no model is going to model an industrial plant with perfect fidelity. There will always be unmodeled errors, but those models, some of those models are just so good that they actually can use the models to tune controllers and then transfer those controller settings to the running plant. They use those models to do step testing for model predictive control and then use those model predictive controllers on the running plant. And when you're able to do that, you know that you have a good model. You can optimize these models and figure out the best operating points and transfer those set points to the controllers in the running plant, and those can achieve great financial results in many situations. We always like to talk about high consequence units. You will find training simulators in the high consequence processes. So, for example, nuclear power plants are required to have training simulators. There is a standard ANSI 3.5 standard that defines what those training simulators do. They talk about things like power failures, like instrument air failures, like failure of the turbine, like loss of cooling to the reactor. Those simulators also have full nucleonics simulation, and so they are simulating meltdown situations with like this MAPS protocol, they call it, and often you will see in the nuclear industry complete full scope simulators, oftentimes done as a complete separate building with an exact replica of the control system, but only everything in that building is simulated. And so you generally would not see those types of simulators in refineries and chemical plants, which are not required to have a training simulator. Some have argued that maybe they should be required, depending on the unit. But you're not going to have a training simulator for a car wash. You're not going to have a training simulator. You probably do need a training simulator for the remote control on your TV or things, but or at least training on it. But high consequence units, refineries, chemical plants, also pharmaceutical and some other places, there can be some very high consequences of accidents.